Yo, I am super excited to have you on, Travis. Mainly, the one thing I wish I had the opportunity to play for you. Not any shots to any of the people that I had coaches. I loved Farquhar. I loved Tanucci, and Kingston was him and I had a little bit of a bittersweet relationship. And when I look back at, we're talking 15 years ago. When I look back at that, I'm always like, man, I think the problem was me. But I think the difference between you and him, and from what I've observed going to the games and the alumni games and stuff like that, is you held a different level of accountability for your players. The level of accountability that you held was more so for growth and in benefit to them. And again, I'm not saying this about anybody on my, who coached me and whatnot, but it was more so, I think that the level of accountability was almost to be disciplinary, and the discipline wasn't with correction. And I think with any coach, any leadership role, it's important to, here's what you're doing wrong. Here's what I expect. Here's how you get better. And I think you did that. And the other coaches, they were kind of just like, lax and kind of chill, and it was fun. Listen, I had a great time in Mitchell College, played baseball. But anyway, that's why I kind of wish I had that year with you. There was so many times I was trying to figure out if I had eligibility back.
Great.
Whatever it is. I wish I had the opportunity to play in that COVID year. Apparently, that's everybody got the eligibility. But Travis, thank you for joining me. You ran a phenomenal program, 2012 to 2023, total 306 wins. You guys won in 2014, 15, 16, 18, 21, 22, 23. So you have 7 rings that you brought to that program. You guys had multiple NCAA regional bids. You won a couple games in NCAA.
We got a couple wins in the regionals.
And it's phenomenal to watch, and what I want to unpack a couple of things is, your coaching philosophy, player development, the evolution of baseball and where it's going today, and kind of your ideas on that. Dave was telling me that you're looking to bring a CCBL league to Groton, and I want to kind of unpack that a little bit.
Yep.
And then kind of just, talk what the future plans are for you. So I do have some icebreaker early on. What did you want to do? Because I saw in your bio for Avery Point that you graduated from Wesleyan, North Carolina, with a degree in political science.
Yeah.
What did you want to do growing up? You've played baseball. You probably love the game of baseball. You wouldn't be doing it to this day. But what did you want to do usually when you grew up?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to play. Obviously, as a high schooler, I wanted to play as long as I could, and I was all state, everything as a high schooler. And then college, I was an All-American at Avery Point, and I played in the Cape. And it was quick to learn that I was like, I'm not going to be a major leaguer.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be a professional. I was a good ball player, but I didn't have a professional tool. So when I entered college, my plan was to be a state cop. So I was going to do that. I wanted to coach, but it's like, how do you make a career out of it? So I'll be a state cop, retire when I'm 44, 45, and then can coach afterwards. And then realized I did not want to do that. Yeah. So I got 2 degrees. I finished up at North Carolina Wesleyan with a bachelor's in CJ and a bachelor's in political science. And like a lot of people that graduate, you're like, oh, what do I do now?
Right.
So I took a semester off. I had always coached and worked lessons and done travel ball. Mm-hmm. So I took a semester off and did that. And then when I went back to get my master's at UConn, I was torn between 3 schools, Pepperdine, which I was planning on actually going to. Best thing I never did. I would have been
coaching. You mean, right?
No, I would have just gone back to get my master's.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which is what I did at UConn too. I was just lucky enough to latch on because of some of my connections with Avery Point and UConn, that I was able to go get my master's at UConn and coach with them at the same time. Mm-hmm. But then the same thing, I got to coach at the UConn team, 2011, arguably one of the best New England baseball teams ever assembled. Mm. George Springer was on that team. Mm. Nick Ahmed, shortstop for the Diamondbacks. Matt Barnes.
Wow, I didn't realize they had all those guys.
Yeah, we were loaded.
So I know George is from Connecticut. Is also Nick Ahmed?
Nick's from Mass, Springfield, Mass, so it's pretty close. Yeah. And Barnes is from Bethel, Connecticut.
Oh,
so
sweet. That's cool.
Scott Oberg pitched for the Colorado Rockies. He was hurt that year, but he was on the team. LJ Mazzilli. I mean, we were loaded.
Yeah.
And I was just lucky enough to be a part of it.
That's awesome.
But then I get it, same thing. I graduate with a master's.
Yeah.
I've got some coaching, but how do you make a career out of it?
Right.
And I was fortunate to kind of land the Mitchell job.
So before I go into like the Mitchell piece, when I think of influence and role models, one of my biggest influences was Rajay Davis. His work ethic, his discipline, his faith, and obviously Rajay's a UConn alumni. Former major leaguer, had one of the biggest home runs in World Series history. He was on the show. It's like episode 7 or 8, a year ago now. But for you, who were your mentors? Because your level of work ethic, I don't want to say militant. When I think of militant, I think Kingston was very militant. I mean, that guy woke us up at 2 a.m. the last night in Florida, my senior year, because somebody missed curfew. I don't know if you ever heard the story, if it was even relevant. He had us running the entire facility, not even the parking lot, the entire facility at 2 a.m. We had a game at 8. It was very like, man, this guy's nuts. But with you again, going back to that accountability piece that you held your players in that standard to, that comes from somebody who held you accountable. You don't just, people do go through life and they end up, finding things in ways that they want to do and accomplish. But where's that accountability level come to from coaching, from life, and now to kind of translate that to your players?
Yeah, I think it's just role models. My parents were great, and the last thing we ever wanted to do as kids is, disappoint our parents.
Right.
Me and my brother and my sister are pretty well behaved. But then I had such great coaching influences. My high school coach was John Schiffner, who's the all-time winningest coach in the Cape League. Mm-hmm. So he coached for Chatham for 30 years, and I got to have him as a high school coach. Yeah. And then there's nobody better than Roger Bidwell.
Right.
Coach Bidwell at Avery Point, JUCO Hall of Famer, and just knows how to hold people accountable. Mm-hmm. He never had to yell. His coaching style and my coaching style, I don't know if it was age, were just so different. Yeah. But the lessons and the accountability he taught us is amazing. Coach long down North Carolina ways, and then being able to coach with Jim Penders and Chris Podeswa, it's one of the best coaching. Yeah. UConn has one of the best coaching staffs around. So I've been lucky and fortunate, and for the coaches that may not have been so good, I've lived this, so I watched what they did. I've taken pros and cons. Right. And not saying I'm perfect, 'cause I'm not, but that's the other thing too, is I've made mistakes. Mm-hmm. Maybe I've done some conditioning things with the guys that it's like you look back at it, you're like, I shouldn't have done that. And you try not to make the mistakes twice.
Right. Just to that point, give me an example, because I know you guys got up early, like in the cold winter, like right now, this time of year, to do your 5 a.m. runs. Yeah. I'm assuming that's not one of them, or is that one of them?
No, because there were standard, we started our year off every year with a 4-mile run at 5 a.m. and it just kind of showed commitment. Yeah. And I never pulled back on that.
And you would join them too, right?
I would run it. 2 years I didn't. One, I had knee surgery. Mm-hmm. Actually, I think 1 year I didn't run it because I had knee surgery. Yeah. But I would run it, and I would let them take off.
What are you observing during then? What are you paying attention to as a coach? Like, are you seeing you said commitment, but is there anything specific? Showing up earlier, motivating their teammates. What were some of the things that really stood out to you?
Yeah, toughness. In certain situations like that, you don't have to be the best runner. Mm-hmm. You don't have to come in first. Right. But don't walk. Yeah. When we always had a rule, you finish through the line sprinting. Mm-hmm. So the guys who would coast, the guys who would just kind of continue on their path through the finish line, it shows that they're not going to give everything they got, right, as you get to the finish line. So just certain things, how we communicate, how we handled ourselves. I would let them go ahead of me. I would let them run I would start 2 minutes behind them, and then I would take off. And then I could just see, while I pass half of them, more than, probably 80% of them, there were guys that would beat me, but I would see how they would react to me passing them. Mm-hmm. If they wouldn't care, if they would stop running, maybe they would walk, and then you would see some guys that have some toughness, like, no, I'm not going to let you, and they would shoot up. So there's, it's just human nature. It's seeing how competitive, how tough they are, and how much they're willing to sacrifice for their teammates.
You were an employee of Mitchell also while coaching, or was that the job in itself?
So when I started, I was part-time. Okay. I made $10,000 my first 2 years. Mm-hmm. So that was tough.
Each year or collective?
Yeah, 2011, 2012, it was 10,000. Yeah. 2012, 2013, it was 10,000. Mm-hmm. And then they finally made me full-time. Yeah. But at small schools, you handle dual roles. Right. So I worked in the admissions department. I taught classes. I did study. That you get thrown the gamut when you're at small
Yeah.
schools like that. It's
Yeah.
not typically not just to coach.
Right.
Towards the end of my tenure, we had built such a good program. We had a JV program, so it was like me coaching two teams. And my athletic director in the middle of it, Dana Fulmer, she's now the AD at Johnson & Wales.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's the best.
Yeah,
she was great. She's an All-American softball player from South Carolina. She just got inducted to the University of South Carolina Hall of Fame.
That's awesome.
She really took a lot of the side ancillary stuff off my plate because there were other coaches there that weren't as successful and probably weren't as working as hard. So she said, "You're doing such a good job. You just focus on what you're doing." Yeah, she was the best.
That's awesome. So let's go into that because you mentioned something that I think was pretty significant for me. So out of high school or out of college, when I graduated in 2011, I had the opportunity to coach St. Bernard's for a year, and like you said, when you get out of college, it's like, what do you do? And I was working retail. I was working, I'm trying to figure out what life is going to look like for the next X amount of years. But then I had this opportunity that got put on my plate. And one of the hardest things for me, looking back, not realizing it then, was dealing with parents. And that's just at the high school level. For you, your earlier challenges, what were some of the earlier things? You guys went 10-8 or 8-10 or something like that in that first year. 10 and 18. Sorry, 10 and 18 in that first year. I don't know what your roster size was, but it wasn't what it was the following year. What was it, like 30 people, 20, 25?
Yeah, it was probably, first year was probably like 22, 24.
Yeah, 22, 24. When I left, we had 17 guys there. So for you, what's like some of that earlier struggles and trying to figure out, like, how do we move this forward and the plans that you guys had set forward?
Yeah, it was such a growth. And looking back, I would never have said this while I was in that 10-18 year was tough.
Yeah.
What
made it tough? Sorry, what made it tough?
Well, I got hired in August. So Scott, your coach, had brought in all junior college guys, a lot of spring transfers, and really no one. I inherited 6 returners. None of those guys had played the year before. They weren't players. They were just walk-ons for him, not great ball players. I love all 6 of them. I talked to still Sanjo and Lucas Mariani. They weren't baseball players.
Right.
So the guys who Scott had brought in, when he left, they all left. So I started with nothing. We rolled out 9 freshmen between our pitching staff and our position players. Ethan Grainer, and Tom, who didn't play the year before, and Tommy DeRozier, who hadn't played in a couple of years. Yeah. So we didn't start any returner. So we started all freshmen. Yeah. So I was teaching baseball, the basic level of baseball that you wouldn't think you would have to teach junior high kids.
Wow.
And it was tough. It was a tough year to get through, and we were setting standards of the program, which a lot of people didn't want standards, and they weren't used to it. They weren't expecting it. They weren't my recruits, the guys that did come. But that foundation that we laid was great because I didn't have kickback from a player who wanted something from a different coach. They were my guys. So in 2012, we were 10 and 18. I think six of those starters on that 10 and 18 team were on the 2015 team that went 33 and 7.
Wow.
So we built them up. We made them better. They worked hard, and it was the best thing ever. So if you're coaching a new program, that first year you will not be judged by. And if you can build it and stay with your guys and you're a good coach, it's going to get better.
What did you envision? So obviously the amount of success, again, we said 306 wins, 7 titles, several NCAA bids. When you are jumping into the program, in business and what I do for work, I have to do a business plan every year. And I like to look at, what am I going to do this year? What's the next couple of years look like? What's 5 years look like? For you, what was that like for you to, like, when you went in, what was your vision? Obviously, I think what you've created, but like, you were in your 20s when you took over the program?
I was 23.
You were 23.
I was the youngest head coach in the country.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's insane to just be like really steadfast and grind it out to get what you want. So what was that?
Well, I think it was easy. It was not easy. But what I'm saying, it was the only thing I ever wanted to do in my life. And I think, we built it to what we want, but it's not just on the field. It's the alumni games we had coming back and reaching back to even your class guys that I didn't coach and showing the pride in the program. And I have such a great role model with Coach Bidwell and, 40 years of coaching and one of such a stellar baseball program. UConn baseball is a good role model. I think we built it holistically. We had good kids. We had 3.0 team GPAs. We were doing community service. Fundraising was really was good, was coming back. So it's not just the wins and losses. I think the other things helped the wins and losses. It was a standard of discipline and structure. And I said it today, actually. We were practicing at Mitchell before we jumped on because we needed the turf field. And it's the level of player that we got. I stopped coaching. I didn't have to coach as much those last years because my juniors and seniors did it.
Yeah, that's great.
So we had set in that 4 years from 2011 to 2015. And then 2016 was a start because we had so many new players. But yeah, 2018 to 2023, man, we had it rolling.
You guys were rolling.
We were rolling. And the turf field helped. I didn't have to grind as much. And we had it just evolved.
There was a moment, and I don't want to, bring up some pain for you, but there was a moment that I actually felt like I was part of the program. I was watching, I can't remember what year it was. So it was you guys were playing Southern Vermont, and you guys lost at home, and they must have had the advantage that year because it was a walk-off grand slam, I believe.
Leslie.
It was Leslie. It was Leslie, and I felt that to my core because I remember in I want to say 2009, because we were in the CUNY conference as well, the New York conference. I think it was 2009. It was either my freshman or sophomore year. And we were playing John Jay, and we were going in as the dog. And they had, I think at the time it was double elimination. So, and it was probably still double elimination, right, for how the conferences work. Yeah. And I remember being, I was pitching against them, and we had to win. It was like do or die. We had to win this game to force the second game for the championship. And we were rolling. I think we take like a 5-2 lead or something like that going into the 6th or 7th. And our guys walked the bases loaded and then walked in the game tying run, and we lost. And, there's a video on it on YouTube. And every now and again, I go back to it just to relive the pain.
Punishment. Yeah,
the pain. But it's just a reminder of how much the good times it was during that program. And I actually talked to one of the players from that team quite a bit. His name is Jason Valentine. He's up in New York. And he always makes a joke of, man, every time we went to Connecticut, it always felt like we're going to Canada. It's always so cold and all that stuff. It's like, but that moment that you guys lost in that, when you think of the losses, is that one of the bigger losses in your career as a coach? Yeah,
that one was tough. I know my last one, my last loss, we were hosting. We had so many people. Mitchell College hosting a regional national tournament. Who would have thought?
That's amazing.
Something that it was great. So that last one was deafening. I think about it this way. Our guys, first year we were 10-18, just getting going. Then we turned it around. 2013 we were 23-15, I think, and we lost in the championship game very similarly. Yeah, we had no arms. We had the advantage. Daniel Webster to beat us twice. And they came back and they did it, and we were holding on to a lead in the second game. And those guys in that huddle after the game said, we're going to win championships, and if you're not on board, then get out. We're going to create a winner here. And the next year we did. And we won in 2014, we won. And we went on to beat Eastern. We were the Cinderella story, facing the number 8 team in the country, and we beat them in the regional, and it showed where we still hadn't quite gotten there, but we were there. But I believe that 2013 loss to Daniel Webster spurred on a championship in 14, 15, 16, because those guys on that field watched them dogpile, and they were never going to let that feeling occur. And we built this program and the success we had through failure. Yeah. And that 2017 loss, that walk-off grand slam, those seniors, great kids, they had never felt loss. Wow. They had never, they weren't a part of that 23rd. So they came in as freshmen, we won a championship. They came in as sophomores in 15, won a championship. Whether they had, some of them had great roles, some of them didn't have big roles with it. 2016, we won the championship. Those seniors had never lost. So they felt it now, but that next year, we went back and won the championship.
That's incredible. Man.
Yeah, we ended up losing in 2019, which was a tough one. Then COVID, and then we spurred on 3 more championships. But I think building culture and building the program to the level we did was based off of failure. Yeah. When we failed, we looked at it and we got better from it.
When you think of like movies, like baseball movies, I think of like Rookie of the Year, where obviously he breaks his arm and he's gets called to pitch in the major leagues, and he goes through this kind of like trial, like what am I doing, and I'm can't throw strikes and all that stuff. Gives up the home run to that guy that he faced later on. They threw the underhand ball too, but there's a point in the movie where it starts turning and almost clicks for him. And I want to ask you, like, at what point did you kind of feel that moment click, where it was like, man, this is where we're gonna start making some big noise? Was it that 2013 loss, or was it like kind of midway through your career?
I think 2015, and I mean the funny thing is it's not consistent. It's not static, because 2015 we had such a senior laden class. We had such great. I think I had 6 captains that year. Mm-hmm. There were certain years I had no captains because I couldn't trust some guys. But 2015 was, man, we're here and we have a chance to win a national championship. Yeah. But then 2016, I graduate all those guys. Now I'm back to teaching what I did in 2012. Right. So when the evolution of a college program is you're never always there. It's kind of ebbs and flows, and you just try to play. But yeah, when I looking back at it now, I'd say 2018 to 2023, I mean, we should have and could have been nationally ranked at any point. We were really good.
When the season's finished for you, what do you do? Do you take time off, or you're like starting to collaborate for the next season? Like, what's that look like for you as a coach?
Yeah, it's you take a couple days. Take some time. It's a good. If you're finishing in the regional tournament, which most of the years we were, it's mid-May, maybe later May. So summer grind hasn't really happened. So yeah, you take some time, clean out the office, and then probably pop in to watch a couple high school games. But yeah, you're not really grinding. So you got probably a few weeks to decompress. And it's a grind.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue to kind of go into now, because I'm curious on like your relationship building philosophy, because it's a relationship business. And, obviously, it's a business. I like to think of things as a business in general. Like, I mean, my life in general is a business. Everything that I do, the podcast, the content creation, the family, there's business elements and aspects to it all. When you think about the relationship building that it takes to get players to like you, because ultimately you don't have to necessarily have them like you, but they have to respect you. And when you get that respect, it also comes with that parenting piece as well that you're going to have to deal with. I'm sure you got emails, texts, phone calls. I won't mention any names, but I remember, after not, putting certain people in, I'd come home that night to 10 different emails about what I should have done and what I shouldn't have done.
Unbelievable.
And it's frustrating. And looking back, I think the reason why I got let go is because I didn't cater to that. And I could be wrong, but that's just how I feel about it looking back. And that's okay, because I was even ready. I mean, I was 22. I needed a job. I needed to make a little bit of money. I love baseball, and I still do, but it just wasn't the right time. What's that for you, like that process of building relationships with your players, and you have so many of them that you have to build that respect back and forth as a coach to player?
Yeah, I mean, it's the college game is so different because you have to create the relationship, for them to come in. And again, at a school like Mitchell, it's not a destination for a lot of people.
Right.
You're either at the school for a reason, or you got recruited and you're coming for a personality. It's not like, again, University of Connecticut, people want to go there.
Right,
Yeah, I think everything we do is relationship. Joe Mariani's the Waterford Legion coach. He's the best. Such a great. It's all about relationships. It's all about umpires and parents and families. I think it's appreciation and it's respect. I respected our guys for the work that they put in, and for the guys that weren't, they just kind of weaned themselves out of the program. So. Not every one of my players loved me. Not every player liked me. I think most of them appreciated the work ethic that I was putting in for them. I spent a tremendous amount of time of my personal life developing them and developing that program. So I think it's got to be, if you're a good coach, it's meant to be two-way street.
Yeah.
They can't be commodities for you.
Right.
You have to give them the same respect. and appreciate the level of work that they're putting in. Because again, getting up at 6 a.m. to go to a lift, it's what, if you're holding the standards, what they have to do, but it still doesn't make it easy.
Right. It's so easy to detach as a player from that idea that this person who's here coaching me is coaching me on their time, and what they don't have to be here. They chose to be here. And as a player, especially, I'll just look at myself, like, and I've said this a couple times on non-sports related episodes, that when I look at me as a player, I think I was pretty talented, having playing at the level that I played with Legion Baseball in New London, and, you know, the guys that were on that team.
Yeah, you were definitely talented.
Jesse Hahn, you know, Matt Harvey, Brian McGugan, a lot of big popular names that went on to do something either professionally or at a higher level than I did. But the thing that I lacked was the hard work and the discipline, and like I said, the accountability that you held your players that standard to. But it's easy to detach at that level, especially specifically young, where you're still forming as who you are as a person, and you end up becoming this ego. Like for me, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go play professional baseball. I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna do that, and then it ended, and it was over and done with. That was such I joke around. I'm like, I didn't realize that until like yesterday. It's always a very easy reflective moment. I think what reminds me of this often is I have dreams often of me playing college baseball still. Like, it's insane. It really is the wildest thing. But I think that, you know, for your philosophy of building a relationship with your players and stuff like that, you can't have the level of success that you've had. And I think that's a foundation. And anybody that wants to go in that direction have that foundation of a relationship with everybody.
Yeah, well, I think it depends where you are. You're not going to be able to build something at Mitchell College.
Correct.
If you're at LSU, you can. It's a professional game. You can. If you're at the right institutions, you can just be a coach, and the player can be a commodity for you.
Right.
We see it all the time now in college football. But if you're at a small school, you're not going to be able to do it without the buy-in from the player.
Sure.
And the guys that we're getting, they're not blue chip players.
Right.
They need to be broken down. The hardest thing that I had to do, and again, I was doing it an hour ago with our guys at Avery Point, is they need to be broken down. So you've always swung this way. We need you to develop. We need you to break down and develop a little bit better from where you are, and things that you're used to doing, you got to change.
Right.
And they need trust in you that you know what you're doing, you know what you're saying, in order to make those changes. Because I mean, how many times have you heard a coach say something to you, like, okay, yeah, and then go and continue to do the same exact thing? So that's where I think we were pretty good at Mitchell, is developing players and getting them to understand, hey, I'm not talking to you if I didn't think you were perfect. You know, if I'm coaching you, there's a reason why. So let's talk about them. Let's fix that, and let's get you to that next level. And most of my guys were pretty good at it.
They received it.
They
really
believed
well.
it. Yeah. Some didn't. I won't say his name. It was 2013. And one of my players, we were indoors probably about this time in February, and he wasn't even going to be a starter for us, but I spent probably 20 minutes working with him in a cage on a tee work just to fix his swing and to say, hey, this is what you need to work on. 20 minutes is a long time when you got 15, 18, 22 hitters. So I said, hey, go on the tee over there, work on this for a little bit. I brought in 2 other guys, and I watched out of the corner of my eye. He just went back and did his own thing.
Wow.
And I'm like, you're just not going to be the guy. And he never was. And he never developed. He never got better. And he ultimately didn't finish his 4 years with us. So it's not everyone's going to be perfect. Not everyone's going to buy in either.
And I feel like that's got to be an expectation, like understanding that. Like, I think about it again, I relate it to business, right? Like, if I'm talking to X amount of people per week, I'm pretty sure that most of them are not going to close, right? And that's got to, they call it the law of averages. You know, the more people that, you know, that's how it works. So I got to imagine too, like, it's the same kind of concept. Obviously, you're going to put in your X amount of time into your players, but there is going to be this level of like, all right, I kind of got to move on a little bit to the people who are going to receive this. I did have a question, because I think that the one thing I love about baseball is in sports in general, but baseball is such a game of failure. And I don't want to say life is, but life is also kind of that same element. And going back to kind of what I was saying earlier about, you know, the things that I wasn't doing that made me better, I feel like now having hindsight and looking back, baseball teaches you that. Baseball teaches you that you fail. Everything's about repetition. If you want to get good at something, I just even think about my show and even bowling, because after I graduated graduated college, I started bowling, and like all of a sudden I got good, and like everything's about repetition. But it's things that I wish that I understood then, that this is more about life and not this dream of playing baseball, which that probably should have just been out of my head because I wasn't putting in that work. But is that part of your philosophy to get them understand that this is also about your life and what you're going to be contributing to the real world?
Oh, absolutely. And you can see who at a young age who's mature and who's going to be a good dad and who's going to be successful because of their reception and their ability to look back at why they failed.
Right.
Excuse me. And most people can't do it, especially in baseball. There's a reason. Well, no, let's look at it, understand why. Doesn't mean you're going to be perfect the next time, but keep attacking your weaknesses and your failures, and you'll ultimately grow.
Yeah.
That's how we built the program. We talked about it earlier. That's how we built this program. It was not through, it's easy to win and be successful and just keep doing that. That's actually easy. It's when you fail, why? And let's attack the weaknesses. Let's attack our failures. And I do think just in life in general now, we have so many parents that don't want their kids to fail.
Right.
They don't want their kids to be unhappy, and so they get emails. The high school coach making $3,000, $5,000 gets emails about this. Well, let the kid fail and tell them why, and that we have so many mental health issues, and I think it's because they don't know. Now they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and they've never faced failure.
Right.
Failure is a great thing as long as it's used properly
Yeah.
to build yourself up.
One of the best things, best coaches I had was my senior year of high school, and I give him a shout out here because he taught me that. He taught me to kind of get uncomfortable a little bit, and he taught me how to hit the ball the other way. Kevin Jaskowitz, I don't know if he's still the basketball coach at Coast Guard.
Jaska's an Avery Point alumni.
Yeah, love that dude. He really turned me into a different hitter. So from my senior year into summer ball, playing at Legion, then going into my freshman year, I kind of got slighted because I wear contact lenses, and I had a doctor's appointment that I missed, and I couldn't get it for like a week, so I lost the starting spot. So I just pitched. But that summer, I would remember working with Dennis Long. He would do one-to-one stuff all the time in at Bates Woods, and then getting with Coach Jaskowitz and just kind of working on hitting the ball the other way. That summer I hit 417 in Legion, and I just think about that, like just really that fundamental, the basics, the repetition, and attack the weaknesses, because that's where you grow. Right. When you think of like your players, you mentioned George Springer, Nick Ahmed, Matt Barnes. What sets those players who are in the major leagues apart from the players who that's AAA, AA, single A, and obviously trying to break that barrier to even just get drafted?
Yeah, I mean, a professional player stands out, especially compared to a guy at Mitchell or a Division III player, and there are some professional Division III players. I think the professional Division III players they have a tool. Whether it's their arm strength, whether it's their speed. I mean, George and Matt you just looked at them and you knew they were pros. And really, Georgie wasn't a guy that was doing a lot of extra work.
Yeah.
I hit with Ryan Fuller. He's now a hitting, not consultant. He's running the Chicago White Sox hitting organization. Former Avery Point guy. He was our third baseman at UConn. I hit with him and Nick Ahmed almost every single day. Repetition and pushing and really going after it. Georgie was never doing extra work. He just didn't need it. He was just
gifted.
Gifted.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's different for everybody. Some guys just have it. Some guys are like Nick. Nick's a robot.
Yeah.
Nick would incessantly work. That the work ethic is no more than anybody I've ever met in my life. And he, got to the show. And I think he's still flirting around with it. So
yeah, I think I have one of his baseball cards autographed, by the way.
Really?
Yeah,
I'd love that.
It's somewhere around here. I mean, I went down that baseball card rabbit. I have like 30,000 cards just sitting around here. I was talking to Dave, and I thought this was interesting. Baseball numbers in certain areas are low from a attraction standpoint. I haven't been involved in the game, and to be completely honest, I've been very heartbroken because you see this jersey. Yeah. I was Game 5 of the World Series. It was the 5th inning, and I'm sitting with my buddy, and I'm like, dude, I've watched this team this entire year. They're up 5-0. This game's like 1-0. I've watched them entire year, and then they blow it.
Yeah.
I haven't put this jersey on,
which was one of the worst innings of baseball. As a coach of fundamentals and things that you.
Thank you.
It's funny because the amount of text messages that I got from the Mitchell, my old Mitchell guys, said Coach would be killing us right now.
Yeah.
I mean, Judge taking his eye off the ball and dropping it. The shortstop not setting his feet, not just getting it out, and then obviously Cole not. It was fundamentally
crazy.
If that happened at a Mitchell or an Avery Point game, I would be losing my mind. So.
And I'll go into this, but I did a short 15-minute episode about that, and that's exactly what I said. Let me ask you, because me and Dave were going back and forth on this. Where should Volpe go on that ball?
He's shortstop.
Yeah, should he think that was the right decision to go to third?
I think he could go to third. I mean, so you have two choices. I mean, I think you either turn and throw to second. You're not getting the double play,
right?
Or do what you did and go to third. But he was in between mentally. He was in between of not knowing what he needed to do. So then his feet get caught. It's not his throw. It was his feet. His feet weren't set. Right. So if he gets his feet set, knows I'm just going to get an out and minimize the inning.
Right.
Then he doesn't spike the throw. Right. And then a really tough play. I'm a Yankee fan too, but I don't follow much. So who's the third baseman?
Jazz.
Yeah, so Chisholm gets caught in the in-between hop. It's just a tough pick, especially with the guy sliding into it. But that for Volpe, it was his mind not saying, I'm going to get just an out here. Right. He was caught in between of, what do I do? So his feet weren't set.
Yeah, that's so I thought, and just from perspective, and I didn't play shortstop, I played outfield. It just felt like it would be an easier way to go to second base. Just because the momentum would kind of allow you for a stronger throw as opposed to going this way. That was just kind of my thought. But
and I think that's what Volpe was planning on it. So it wasn't. I mean, it was ultimately a body position, but Volpe was like, I'm going to go here, and then he
panicked. He panicked a little bit.
He catches himself. So
what a meltdown! So it's the first time I've wore this jersey. I haven't been excited about baseball. I'm excited about baseball now because I'll watch. I'll watch probably 150 games a year.
Really?
I just love watching baseball. So, but going back to my question, with the numbers declining, what's happening with baseball and why is that? Because my son starts in 2 months. He's doing T-ball. We're gonna get him out there. I'm ready to go back out here, have him hitting. He'll be 5 in April, and he's like, Dad, when are we gonna do this? I'm so excited for it. And I think that comes from just my love and passion of the game. Is the answer to my question that it's because of the parents not putting them in? Is the other sports taking over? Is it the AAU? What do we got?
I think, and I'm no expert, but I think it's all of that. So it's one, I think just decline. People aren't having as many kids. We can see it in the college level. We're at the lowest peak of college age students coming in. Just there's not as many kids. And so schools like Mitchell, it's really concerning because enrollment is down. I mean,
I didn't realize that.
Mitchell's under 400 students. Which when you were there was probably 1,000.
Yeah. Holy moly!
Yeah,
really?
when I started, it was 980.
Oh my god!
Now they're under 400.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I think it's just people aren't having as many kids, and people, can't. I don't have kids, so it's tough to afford.
It is tough to afford, but it is what it is.
But baseball's a slow-paced game, and so when you go to the T-ball games, the kids are in the outfield, and where lacrosse, you can keep moving. So video games, I think it's also a declining community aspect. So I think it's all of those things. I mean, I think college baseball is the best it's ever been because of a few things, age and lack of draft. I think high school baseball is getting better and they're, better coached. So I don't think it's going anywhere, but the numbers, it's, in towns are having to combine a little bit more and you're just seeing, there's only 2 teams where Waterford used to have 6. So but I think it'll be okay. It's just, it won't be as big because there's just more options for kids now.
Wow. I didn't realize the enrollment thing is huge. I never even think about that. I remember being in New London, we had 2 little leagues. We had the American League, which was the New London high school side, and then there was the National League, which was where Mitchell College is. And I think each league had probably 8 to 10 teams. Yeah. And then we had our own all-star teams that would compete against some of the other towns around. Fast forward a decade, so let's just say 15, 16, we have Legion. You got New London Legion. We had Ledyard. Waterford, Montville, Norwich, all those teams. And from what I hear, New London doesn't have a program anymore. They kind of combined with Waterford. I'm not sure what the other surroundings are like.
So Legion's been decimated. I think Legion's a different story than youth, just because that has been infiltrated by AAU and travel and those guys. So it's that probably doesn't have to do with so much declining. It's just that there's so many more options for kids to play.
What's the appeal to not play like that summer ball and go AAU? Just curious, because like I loved summer ball. I loved playing doubleheaders on Saturday and one on Sunday, the 9-inning game, the night under the lights. That was so much fun. Yeah. Is it because parents are? Is the level of competition different now because so many people are doing it? Like, what's going on with that?
It is. I mean, the Legion, there are some Legion programs now. They're hanging on, which is great because it's such a town. I'm from Plainfield. I played for Plainfield High School, but it was Moose Up Legion. Yeah, and it's it is. So the competition is definitely down. I think parents look at certain travel programs. Oh, well, this team will help my son get to a college, and it's more recruiting. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I mean, a good player, even if he played Legion, is going to be seen and going to be recruited.
Right.
But I think that's what has happened is, the guys who are doing AAU and running AAU are just now pulling in more and saying we can sell you more, but you're also going to spend $3,000 to do it
a year.
And that's probably on the low end. And I mean, there's some programs that are probably $5,000.
Jeez, and where are they traveling to?
Honestly, most of the ones that I know in this local area, not very far. They're going to travel tournaments in Rhode Island. They'll go up to Old Orchard Beach. Maybe you go to Long Island. Like they're like a high level travel program. We'll go down to Georgia and we'll go down to Florida and go to these perfect game programs and be seen by high end coaches, Power 5 coaches. The programs around here aren't doing that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Will the programs accept any player if you're paying, or will they like kind of what's the word I'm looking for, curate the team that they need to compete at that level?
I don't want to speak for them, but I think for the most part they're probably taking you. I mean, there's some good teams, but yeah, I think they're probably taking you.
Okay.
So
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially if they don't have, they're in that limbo period of filling the roster or not. They'll take you just so that they can get the extra money to have the team.
Do you see that just kind of being a continuous staple in baseball? Like, the days of Legion and that kind of summer ball's gone?
I think, Waterford Legion and Joe Mariani is doing a great job and he's got college coaches on his staff. He does a great job, and hopefully it keeps it rolling. But it's not going anywhere. Like travel ball and the AAU programs, it's not going anywhere.
So for like just even from a recruitment standpoint, like what's that high school recruitment like for high school going into college, and then maybe even college to pro, AAU to pro? Is it mainly streamlined through the perfect game, like showcases and stuff like that, or how are kids getting visibility? Again, is it just the AAU or?
No, I think, high school is still a big piece of it. I think it's easy for us as college coaches to go to it's now prep baseball or PBR, which I was supposed to work an event for them on Sunday, their pro case. They bring in, Sunday was supposed to be their big event in New England, and all the Division I potential commits. And last year I worked our catcher at Avery Point was there. It's just easy because you can go to these events as a college coach and see 100 good ball players.
Right.
So it's kind of easier for us to see it. But no, I mean, it's still the high school. It is travel. It's summer recruiting events. And then for a lot of the higher end baseball programs, it's running their own camps and still going there. But it's so much easier when you started, and then when I was going through, there was no phone. There was no video. I had to take a video recorder and take a video of me. Now,
that's a good point.
Anybody can just do it and send it off to Coach Penders at UConn.
Right. That's a good point.
It's a little. It's not a little. It's definitely easier. It's harder on the college coach to try to triage who can play for me just through video.
Right.
So,
how much do you guys look at analytics compared to like major leagues? Like major league, just on base percentage, WAR, all that stuff. Is that at the level D3, D2, D1? Is that something that coaches are looking at?
Some do.
Yeah.
I think.
Did you?
I did not.
No. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
I think it had no bear. I don't care what your exit velocity is.
Yeah.
If it's
Spin rate, all that
spin
stuff.
rate.
Yeah.
Some coaches, Salve Regina, pitching coach Andrew McKean's really good,
Mm-hmm.
and I know he looks at that and sees it. I'm pretty good at seeing throw the ball over the plate, throw it where you want. I don't care if it's what RPM it is.
Right.
And they'll say they can pitch design against the pitcher, but
Sure.
at the end of the day, I don't. The pitcher's got to show it to me.
And I gotta imagine at that professional level, they know how to work on. Like I think a guy like Trevor Bauer, who's like a freak of nature with paying attention to his analytics. Gotta imagine at that level, it's like those guys understand it a little bit more. Not that the coaches don't, but most collegiate players aren't understanding that level of intricacy and knowing how to create that much spin. And are they athletically? Do they have that ability to do that?
Right, and that's I agree 1,000% with you. Our guys wouldn't have been able to make the adjustment. Okay, we want to do this anyways, and they couldn't have done it.
And they're doing this that's their life, right? The major leaguers that's all they do. Like they the season's over, whatever, October, November, they go a couple weeks and then they're back in the lab working on pitching, all that different stuff. You do and I got to give a big shout out. I hope they hear this, but you go to the convention, the baseball coaches convention, and I got to give a huge shout out because I should have mentioned this earlier. They were a big piece to my development as a player. Andy and Pete Walker.
Yep.
When they had America's Game in Waterford, they were very generous to allow me to hit there for free, to pitch there for free, to do one-on-one sessions for free. They never charged me a dime. So I got to give them a big shout out. But you go to the coaches clinic there. What do you learn from doing the coaches clinic at Mohegan Sun when they come down here? I think it's like a 2 or 3 day event.
Yeah, I help run it.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I'm Pete and Andy and Roger LaFrancois and Rick Orlick we help put it on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great. I mean, we bring in, it's not only, it reinforces a lot of things that we're saying, but it also is, you can hear different coaches talk about it, and then you can, that makes sense, or some little things. I mean, you can go there and get slapped over the head with so much knowledge.
Sure.
But it's also being able to pick little things, and it's just great for communication.
Yeah.
Like, where are you going to go meet?
Good networking too,
yeah,
right?
Scott Strickland, the Georgia coach, and you can talk with this guy and grab a beer with him and have a conversation with him about his catching philosophy. And he was a big catching guy. So it's great because it brings in so many baseball people, just high school, amateur, college, professional. So not only are you learning from the presenters and you're getting great knowledge, but you can go have a drink with the St. Bernard's high school coach and the Mitchell College coach, and we can just chat. It's about things. It's such a great event.
That's very cool.
And I do help run it, but it's such a great event to come to, and it's at Mohegan, which is phenomenal.
I was gonna try to just to pop in, not because I'm involved with that, but I had an event. I had something going on that weekend. But yeah, man, they were very generous, and
they're the best.
Honestly,
Pete and Andy are the best.
Honestly, I don't think that Jaskowitz was great, but I think I got introduced to them I was probably a sophomore in high school, and even when they moved to, I think, Old Saybrook, Old Lyme, they still allowed me to use their facilities. It was just never like, just give them a call, hey, can I come? And they would let me. So big shout out to them.
Well, and that's where I got my coaching start. So, I mean, I had always coached. I'd coached junior high basketball with my brother, but I was at Avery Point, and both Pete and Andy are Avery Point alumni. They both went to Avery Point. And when I was playing at Avery Point, I was going to America's Game and giving lessons to kids. I was doing Andy and I joke junior slugger, which is birthday parties, which is like 3 or 4 year old birthday parties. But that's where I
kind of remember that at America's Game in Waterford. I kind of remember they had the dividers and stuff like that. The little kids would kind of run around.
Yeah, on the back end. That's where So, and that's where I got my coaching start. And then that's where I talked about when we started, when I graduated North Carolina Wesleyan, what was I going to do?
Right.
I came back and I was doing that. America's Game had kind of shut down, but I went with Jeff Riggs to Between the Lines, and Jeff had worked at America's Game. Yeah. So that's where I got my coaching start on America's Game. That's
crazy, man. That's like I said, when I think about good times, it's those for me were one of those, because man, I'm very thankful that I had the opportunity to meet them.
And great people.
Very good people. I ran into Andy twice in the last decade. Recently, last summer or maybe spring, because my son takes swimming lessons over at East Lyme. So I ran him. I look at him like he looks a little bit different, a little bit bigger.
He's a big guy.
Got the beard, because back then he's clean shaven and whatnot. And I'm like, Andy? He was like, he didn't realize who I was. Like, and then I saw him probably 4 more years prior. My wife did it was a charity talent show where she was dancing on stage, and I saw him. And but I haven't seen Pete in probably 13, 14 years, because he's still the pitching coach for the Blue Jays.
We got Pete Avery Point. We did the first ever Avery Point alumni game this fall.
Oh, that's cool.
And so we had guys from Pete came back, and we had guys going back to like 1987.
Did Rajay go there?
Rajay didn't come, and Andy couldn't come because he was up in Boston for a basketball game for his daughter.
Right, yeah.
But we had the pitching coach for the Toronto Blue Jays down at our alumni game.
That's cool. Did he throw?
He said he was going to, and then he didn't. But we're hoping next fall he will.
I love to see. Like I think this past season, one of the games they played against the Yankees, he got thrown out, and I was like, let's go.
And he's such the most mild mannered guy. He's awesome.
He looks the same too. He looks great, phenomenal. Let's talk CCBL. What that what plans you have for that. We'll wrap up with some final questions, and I think that when I think of summer ball, it was always ECML, and even ECML at post grad. Like I played for 5 years. It was pretty competitive baseball, and it kind of dwindled down because of maybe a little bit of politics, maybe a little bit of frustration with some of the people who didn't like how it was run, but it ran its course.
Yeah.
Talk to me about CCBL, what the goals are, what the implementation process might be like, and what are you hoping for? Yeah,
so the CCBL is the Connecticut Collegiate Baseball League, and it's if you think about it, it's kind of an extension of Legion. So it is geographically based. They just added 2 teams this year, a team in Danbury and now the Eastern Connecticut team.
Oh, so it's an active team now, just bringing a league, but you're bringing it down here.
Correct.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So the league's been around for about 15 years, and anybody from Eastern Connecticut, from Putnam to Saybrook to let's go to Fitch and Stonington. There was no Eastern Connecticut team, so they would the closest team for them to play on would be Manchester or Glastonbury, and that's a haul in itself. Right. So for years I was trying to get Tim Vincent. Used to be big Rawlings reps. He's still the commissioner. Tim's such a great guy and great for baseball. I was trying to get him to get an Eastern Connecticut team down here because my guys at Mitchell needed a place to play, or they would go play ECML, and again there's only 2 teams in the league at this point. So, and he's just like, well, we've got a lot of Central and Western teams. It doesn't make sense for our teams to have to travel. It's tough. And so he was pretty adamant against it. And then Mitchell got the turf field. And so I was like, hey, let me have a team. And he's like, no, without lights, it's still tough. And then now that I've at Avery Point, I've got a great relationship with Mary Hill at the Groton City. It's great for Eastern Connecticut to have. So he finally approved Danbury's adding a team, and now the Eastern Connecticut team were the Gold Star Generals.
Sweet.
Because you got to drive over the Gold Star.
When's opening day?
I don't have the schedule yet, but it should be end of May, early June will be the first team. But
and just college kids, right?
So I'm allowed to have
like a 35-year-old.
Well, I'm allowed to have.
I'm just joking. I can't. Man, my thing is shot, bro.
So it is. It's just the collegiate league. So you have to have college eligibility. I'm allowed to have, I think, 5 high school kids.
Oh, cool.
That are
good for
that
that's
are committed.
Awesome.
So
that's cool.
We've got Jacob Schrage, who's committed to Post University from Stonington. We've got a couple of those guys. So it's going to be great for the guys in the area. It's going to be great for the ECML too, because we'll supplement games with them. So hopefully keeps that league going too.
Yeah,
but
that's awesome.
It's great for baseball in this area.
Yeah, I played. They have this 35+ league that I joined last summer.
35, man. That's
bro. It's crazy, man. Dude, it's insane. I don't feel 35. I still feel like I'm 18
until you throw, and then you feel.
Dude, it's crazy because like when I started, kid Andy Derry asked me if I wanted to play, and Andy played at Mitchell. Yeah, he was a Mitchell guy, and I was like, I can't. I have a kid. My daughter's born. He's like, all right, we'll revisit next year. So the following year, I'm like, all right, why not? So I bought all the stuff. We would work out at DBI and Mystic, and we'd hit, throw, and I'd throw like. I tore my labrum my junior year because we lost our catcher. So coach was like, "Who wants to catch?" And I decided to catch, and we didn't have anybody else to do it. But I think because the arm slot was different, I think I tore because that next year I had to get an MRI, and they said, "Listen, you can. It's not going to hurt you now, but long term it's going to go." So even like through coaching SABs, I would, it'd take me a little while to get loose, 2 or 3 more years, still kind of, throw probably low 80s, 80, 82, something like that. But then haven't played for almost a decade now. I played this past summer and I'm out there trying to, wing it, and but I can still swing it. I still hit the ball, but it's a decent league. I mean, they have like,
where do you guys play out of?
We played out of Brooklyn, and we played at Owen Bell Park. That was our home field. The Dirt Bags was our team name. But we would play like teams in Bristol, and there was a bunch of East Lyme had a team, and some of the guys, they had some like former not major leaguers. I think Chasen played in one, and there was a couple other guys who like made like single A or double A for the Yankees. But it was fun. I mean, it was just like, but it's a lot of work, man. Yeah. It's doubleheaders on Sundays in the heat. I'm like, dude, I'd rather either be playing golf or just hanging out with my family, at the beach or something. So I think my days of that are done. I officially hung it up.
Or pick and choose what days you go.
Right. So for you, we have, now you're the athletic director. Congratulations on that. That's awesome. I was, again, not having played for you, I felt like still kind of heartbroken. I'm like, oh no, Travis is gone and whatnot. But you really created a really great program there, and it seems like they're kind of still steamrolling a little bit. I did see that the coach was Sean Blair. He got coach of the year or something last year. Yep. Where did they finish? Did they won?
Yep. Oh. They finished first. They won. They went to the GNAC, which was because the NECC was no longer. Okay. And they had a great year. I was pumped for them. They a lot of the guys were still my guys. Yeah. And I give Sean a lot of credit. Two of their best players that had big years for them last year were guys that I had, were on my team,
sure,
but weren't huge contributors for me. Right, and we tried. They were great kids. They worked hard, but for some reason they couldn't get there. And I don't know what he did, or if he changed them, or they just grew up and they had another year and they got better. But Cole Lally was a transfer from Eastern, and this kid is shredded. He just couldn't hit the ball for me the year before. So he really had a couple opportunities, just couldn't quite get it. It was the GNAC. I think he was the GNAC Player of the Year.
Nice.
So it was, so Sean did a good job, and Sean coached with me for 2-3 years. Mm-hmm. He was with me with the COVID year, so I think 2 years after that. Yeah. So he was familiar with our program, and that's what I'm sure he would say. He's, we're not reinventing it. Trav had it rolling, and so he's doing a good job. Yeah, awesome. So with what's next for you? Obviously you're the AD. I mean, I guess, it'll say what's next for you. I'm not asking if you're leaving your job to do something else, but do you see coaching kind of still in your path at some point? Is that something you aspire to kind of continue down the road? Yeah, we'll see what happens. With this administrative. I didn't want to leave the field. Mm-hmm. It's the only thing I ever wanted to do, but there were changes coming with the NCAA. There are changes coming at Mitchell. Again, we're talking enrollment. And I went to Avery Point. I'm in the Avery Point Hall of Fame. So to sit in the same chair that Coach Bidwell sat in, and to kind of help the program in that sense and keep athletics going at Avery Point, it's pretty special for me. So awesome. So we'll see. I don't know. Yeah, well, listen, best of luck for anything that you do. Very proud to be Mitchell alumni and see what you've built over there. The field is amazing. Another thing that I'm jealous of, that only get to see that field once a year, and it's usually like 30 degrees out, and it's never like 60 degrees. But congratulations on all your success, Travis, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you got going on next. Well, you too, man. Thanks. It was good to catch up. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. Thanks, man.